My friend, Reverend Alberty. Over to you.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Let us hear these words. Then the king said to those at his right hand, "Come, you who are blessed by my Father, and inherit the kingdom prepared for you from the foundation of the world. For I was hungry, and you gave me food. I was thirsty, and you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger, and you welcomed me. I was naked, and you gave me clothing. I was sick, and you took care of me. I was in prison, and you visited me." Those words sound very familiar to many of you from the Matthean writer from Matthew 25, 31 to 36. And then the text goes on to say, and then the righteous will answer him, "Lord, when was it that we saw you hungry, gave you food, or thirsty, gave you something to drink? And when was it that we saw you a stranger and welcomed you, or naked and gave you clothing? And when was it that we saw you sick or in prison and visit you?" And the king will answer them, "Truly I tell you, just as you did it to one of the least of these, your brothers and sisters of mine, you did it to me." Um, I would lift from this text that truly the righteous are those who have a desire to live in a right relationship with the other. That the righteous is not the ones that get it right all the time, but the ones who desire to live right with God and live right with each other. And I would say that living in right relationship is when we love each other. I think many times we've taken these different things like clothing ministries and feeding ministries and visitation ministries, and we've made them ministries instead of lifestyles. I don't think that the intent was to create ministries for all these things, but really to say, when you see your sister and your brother in need, see them as the image of God. And what if God was one of us? How would you entreat God if you met God? And because we're all created in the image of God, all humanity, when one of us are in need, when one of us are in suffering, we should make an effort to love each other, to be right with each other, to companion each other. Truly then, when we make that commitment to live right with each other, is when we truly are loving each other. As the former executive director of Pathways to Promise, I had the honor to be able to be one of the co-founders of the companionship movement, which is a relational response to isolation and distress and supportive of healing and recovery through community. My friend, Reverend Craig Rennebaum, created the companionship model, and he wrote a book called Souls in the Hands of a Tender God. And this companionship movement, which is rooted in 5 practices. The first practice is that of hospitality. Hospitality is when we approach another person with respect and we honor the dignity inherent in every human being. Hospitality is when we create peaceful space with another. Hospitality is when we share calm and rest and refreshment, often in this tense, confusing, and traumatic world. I think we love each other when we're hospitable one to the other. But not only do we love each other and live in right relationship with each other when we're hospitable, but when we are neighbors one to the other. This whole ideal of the stranger in this text, seeing no one as stranger, because we're all created in the image of God. The neighbor invites us to discover what we have in common, where we set aside our power and our privilege, and we see each other as equals. But then, how do we love each other? We love each other by practicing this opportunity to share the journey side by side. It's when we look at the world together, acknowledging, even though we have different backgrounds, different viewpoints, we still walk together, not trying to push or pull and impose our own priorities, but just walking side by side. As Amos said, how can two walk together unless they be agreed. And then we listen to each other. The practice of listening, where we're willing to open up and hear another person's story, hear their account, and be able to, as we listen to them, do it non-judgmentally. And lastly, how do we practice love? By way of companionship, we accompany each other in this journey we call life, where we're listening, especially what that person says their need is, and we support them in community, and we build a circle of care. As we did last week when we had the conversation about the young lady who was in need. Together in community, we said, how can we care for her? How can we support her? In essence, we were living out the text that was read before us. We truly were providing for the person who in the moment had less when we had some to provide. And so I would end with this theological claim that living in right relationship is when we love each other. Doesn't matter who we are, doesn't matter where we come from. We just exhibit love one to the other. As we would say in our faith tradition, this is the word of the Lord, and the response would be, thanks be to God. That's my message for you all today. Let us love one another as God has loved us. Amen.
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 Amen. Amen. Reverend Alberty, amen. Once again, you cannot go wrong with love. And that is one of my most favorite scriptures, where it is saying to us that it is when you're doing it to the least of these, you're doing it unto God. Thank you so very much for reminding us about how we should love one another, and particularly surrounding those who has less. Just like what we did, like you said, I'm glad you reminded us of that illustration. This is what we do at the Lifeline. We attempt to love on everyone, and particularly those who have their backs up against the wall. I'm reminded of a textbook. Jesus, he's the warrior of those who have their backs up against the wall. Yeah. So anytime that we are in ministering and loving on the poor, the homeless, the sick, those who are in prison, we're doing it unto God. He's closest to those who are most in need. Thank you for that. Rod, over to you.
Let me just jump in real quickly.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Come on.
That people know we're talking about 6 p.m. Eastern time for next Thursday, because I don't think we put a time zone on that. So it's 6 p.m. Eastern time. So just know that
Yes.
you can put in your schedule. And then lastly, I would say that it's really important that we talk about the least of these, that means any of us can fall in that category. No matter how much money you have, no matter where you live at, all of us can fall in the category where we have a need one or the other. And that says that there are times in our lives where we are not in the space where we fully are whole. And we need someone else to come alongside and complete us in some areas. I just wanted to throw that out there. I think sometimes we can categorize folks as it's for those people, but that message is for all of us that find ourselves hungry, spiritually, naked, spiritually. So it's not just physical. It is in all ways we find ourselves. So I just want to,
Thank you, Reverend, for saying that, because you're right. You can be financially well off, but spiritually decadent.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, you can be that least of these spiritually. Yes. Thank you so much. So that message is for everyone.
Everybody.
So I have a question. So thank you very much, Reverend Alberty, for that wonderful message.